So we've got like a founder, someone who's done a lot of asset management. Now he's got a new angle. Another founder, an angel, a backer of founders, and a founder. But I'd love to hear this Square story for a second. Let's hear from someone and how that experience and how it colors what you're doing today.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Wen. I was on the founding team at Square back in early 2009 was when the idea began. I'll give as brief of a story as possible. Basically, the professor who then later sued us, that's a different story, but the professor, one of my professors introduced me to Jim McKelvey, who is one of the two main backers initially for the company. Met up with him. I was working at Boeing at the time, at the old McDonnell Douglas lab in St. Louis, and got involved with the company, started working on it after work. Almost gave away the idea to Boeing because I took my employment agreement a little too seriously, and I disclosed the invention to Boeing. Luckily, they didn't care for it. Yeah, pretty much just was working on Square on the side until around September when we showed it to a bunch of VCs, and they seemed to like having a physical object in their hand that could swipe credit cards. And we decided at that point to incorporate and form the company. So incorporated, formed the company, nearly died several times to the likes of PayPal and Amazon, and came out the other side with a public company that we were all very happy with because it made us all a lot of money. So that's the quick version, and happy to talk more about it. Yeah, one-on-one.
So I'm Keith McCall, founder and CEO of a company called Pollen Systems. The reason I asked the question of Lisa a few minutes ago is because we process information from drones and now from satellites as of a year ago to help farmers grow better crops. Okay, and so I'm really interested in seeing how we can deliver a planetary system that helps feed the world's 2 billion people who are going to be added to us in the next 15 years.
Damon Uzon from InfraDX Capital. We focus in on water and wastewater on a decentralized, so think industrial water here in the US, any applications. So that's some of the exciting things that we see of kind of what's going on with data centers, semiconductor plants, food and bev, mining, kind of anything that needs some form of industrial wastewater treatment. And our focus is try to get it designed, built, or developed, designed, built, operated for institutional capital.
Chris Laws, founder and CEO of The Domes. So we're basically about building immersive bubbles that you can walk into and turn into whatever you want. So whether it's about water or space or finance, whatever is in your imagination, be able to share that with everybody in a fully programmable, immersive world. That's kind of my obsession, but just glad to be here.
I'm Ben Narrison. I'm currently a seed VC. I've been doing that for 18 years. Before that, I was an entrepreneur for 25 years, culminating with taking one of my companies public, which was a .com I started in 1993 and took public in 99. Not quite as big an outcome as Sam had, but it was a very good one and allowed me to decide my fate, which I'm always happy about because I'm an unemployable guy. So good to be able to work for myself.
Well, you heard what he said about Europe. He doesn't pull punches. So the question I have for the panel, we usually say what scares and excites you, but if you could, we were just, and everyone said, by the way, San Francisco. It's not San Francisco. San Francisco, it's like Palo Alto is the Bellevue. It's like this. San Francisco is having its own problems. So it's really Menlo Park and Palo Alto. But we heard these themes of how, AI is changing. You just got to fast forward. Everything is going to be low cost, except I don't know how energy will deal with that. But how do you see in your particular industries as you're investing and the AI component and how you're riding that wave or otherwise anticipating the wave?
So I'm both a skeptic as well as a proponent of AI, and it's one of my, I guess, personality quirks is that like I always hate the thing that's currently like hyped to hell. Am I not supposed to swear? Sorry, I tend to swear a lot. What?
Hype to heck.
Hype to heck. I'm sorry. I'm super sorry. I tend to always hate the industry that's currently hyped, even though I love the underlying technology. So as an example, like when crypto was the biggest thing in the universe, I was like, yeah, but. So I'm kind of that way with AI. I think the nature of how you market new technologies is that it's a little bit of fact and it's a little bit of fiction. So I think with AI, I mean, everybody wants you to know that AI is going to take every last person's job in the world. I think that's going to be true to some extent. That's the entire point of computing. That's why we do software in the first place. It's to make operations cheaper, make something cheaper. And I think perhaps AI will accelerate the pace where we swap out certain jobs for compute. But I think what I am scared of is the rate at which that happens. So like I think people talked about UBI a little bit earlier. I haven't thought about this exhaustively, but I would like for us to pursue measures that will continue to help with productivity and to continue to make use of our human capital, rather than sort of saying, look, here's a basic income, and if you don't want to participate in productivity, then don't. But that's kind of my fear, is that like if we fall behind as a country, I mean, like quick thing about me, I'm an immigrant, came to the U.S. when I was 4. Very bought into America. I'm troubled by what's been going on really in the last 12 years. But yeah, I mean, I do truly believe that the U.S. has this sort of cultural superiority in the sense that very few places in the world can you go and you can see CEOs of all the different races, genders, and colors as the U.S. So I fear that that culture is in danger, given some of the troubles that we've seen, given AI also continuing to destroy the middle class, compute and AI destroying the middle class. So there's a lot of things that I do fear, and I'm not really sure what the solution is. I haven't thought about it. And I think greater minds than mine are thinking about this problem, but I'm not really sure what the solution is.
Well, I'm going to continue on from my discussion about 2 billion people being added to the planet over the next little while, and some conversations with both the Africa Eats people. The CEO is Looney Leibs. He lives on Mercer Island. And also opportunity.org. Paul Asana is going to come up and be part of the next panel. But talking about that challenge of 2 billion additional people on the planet, 35 to 40% additional food production required by the year 2050, and that we're going to move to a state where more people are operating in an agrarian environment. So we're going to get more and more people who are growing their own food all over the planet. So what AI can do for them is to help them assist or understand better how their crops are actually going to fare in a changing climate with changing environmental issues happening daily. For instance, the number one thing that Africa Eats told me is that the farmer in Africa, the thing they most care about is when are the rains going to come and how much rain are they going to get. So imagine an AI that basically can be looking out for the crop that you're producing, that can send you information to a phone or some sort of data object that tells you rains are coming, here's the type of corn you need to plant for the best productivity this year. That'd be awesome, and I hope to make that a reality.
Yeah, I'll probably just go back to the, we work with a lot of the water design engineers, all the big ones in the US, and so, we're always kind of on the front lines of hearing what they're at, and they're sitting in meetings with the TSMCs, the Microns, and everyone's just like, build as quickly as possible, and like, great. And so you got 5, 10, approaching $50 billion plants just are going to be cookie cuttered, which is great, but then you start doing the math on where they're going to get the water, and the folks that we're working with, they're developing it, don't have the solution, and they're supposed to have the solution, and eventually it's got to come from ag communities, and then you got to start looking at, all right, where is the nasty wastewater that's not free, but it's going to be expensive to clean, and that's where we need to get to, because I don't think we're really ready to take away from the communities and the ag just yet. But at the same time, we're not really slowing down the demand for AI and computing. So it's a little bit kind of scary.
So I think about something that I'm hearing more and more of, which is this idea that we started in kind of an agrarian age, going to an industrial age, to being now in an information age, and then shifting into like a knowledge or wisdom age. And so now we have, you know, all this information, so much of it that it's more or less infinite. You can ask your phone anything you want to know about any obscure fact, and it's at your fingertips. But what is the application of that knowledge? And I think that's where a lot of the technologies that we already have are already very powerful, but the amount that we're misusing powerful tools to inflict, you know, societal and civilizational self-harm is, you know, counterbalancing that to a great degree. So I really believe that, you know, now for everyone of us that are alive in the world and have our various roles to play, we need to try to shift consciousness and to bring this kind of age of wisdom around, so that we can use all these tools, whether it's AI and energy and technology, to, you know, holistically better ourselves and the planet. I think that's really going to be key, is the consciousness of civilization. So that's what I'm thinking about these days.
So it continues, since this is the topic is fundamentally AI at this moment. I was on CNBC last week specifically to talk about AI. And as anybody that's ever been on before or has looked at it knows, they summarize everything you said into one line when they put the video clip online, so that I can then repost it to everybody that didn't get up at 4 a.m. California time to watch me yap. And so the summary they used for me was that AI fundamentally changes the value of time. And this is, I'm going to use a very specific example because I believe will both show you why jobs are at risk, but ultimately jobs will be just fine. I invested in a company called Hippocratic. Hippocratic is currently worth a couple $2 billion. It's a great founder. I've known him for at least 30 years. It augments what nurses do in hospitals and doctors' environments. When you leave the hospital or doctor's appointment, it calls you and talks to you and asks if you're on your meds and if you're doing what you need to do. And I listened to about 20 calls, and this thing is truly amazing. It knows when you're lying, and it's very nice to you when you are. Like, you could probably guess if you lied to me and I caught you, I'm not going to be nice about it. But the AI is like, oh, I understand. No, you're just busy, but just tell me, you know, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the point is that AI can call every single person that left that hospital. There is no nursing staff on the planet that can do that. Now, nurses have plenty of jobs to do. AI is not standing at your bedside figuring out, you know, how best to do a good or bad job of drawing blood. This will save lives. This will make the world better. And the people that used to have to spend some of their time doing this work will be able to do more valuable things. So I'm very, very positive on that. I think there will always be unintended consequences. But generally, AI will make us all better. It will make us all wiser, or at least smarter. There's a huge difference between intelligence and wisdom. And, you know, the fact that, you know, these are brain extensions. You know, Einstein used to say, I don't need to remember my phone number. It's written in a book. Why do I need to remember a bunch of drivel when I can just pull it up on here? So I'm very positive on AI. I'm not sure where I'm fearful. I think it's always healthy to have a little bit of fear. But generally, I think the world just gets to be a better place. And every technology revolution in the past has done that. We have gotten better. Last point I will make, the one thing I worry about are what I would call the single-purpose tool human beings. The people that have one and only one job function and are unlikely to care about getting retrained. I was in New York looking at an apartment, and I get in the elevator with my broker, and there's this big guy there, and he's like, what floor? 6. Bloop. It's like, ugh. And I said to my broker, I can't buy in this building. I can't walk in every day and see this slob whose only job is to push a button, who only has a job because some, scumbag union insisted that he have a job so legitimate legislation could get passed. In the era when you did this to do the elevator, great. When you push a button, the world is not better. You are a leech, and I worry a lot about that person if he doesn't want to go get retrained, because the equivalent will be hard.
Have you read Why Nations Fail? Have you read Why Nations Fail?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm trying to.
the creative destruction argument, right?
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like Why Nations Fail is great, or Collapse by Jared Diamond.
Yeah.
Okay. So I actually wanted to open it up, but now you've made me think about those words. Because by the way, I'm going back to Ohio a lot, and seeing we were decimated by all the jobs going to China. We were a blue collar town, just got killed. And I'm from my dad's a barber, right? So I respect everybody, whatever they do. I get it. They're gonna be. So just anyway, it rubbed me the wrong way that what you said.
No, the barber is a great example. When we went from an agrarian society, like if you think before the Civil War, over 90% of people in the United States were working on a farm.
Well,
Then-
they also had 13 children, like my grandpa, right?
And then you had modern agriculture, and they moved to cities. And when they got to cities, when you worked on a farm, you didn't have a barber, you cut your own hair. So now all of a sudden you're in a city, you need those services. I'm not saying people with, I would argue a barber is a skilled craft. I love skilled crafts. There are 100,000 jobs in the United States right now in construction that pay over $100,000 a year that aren't filled. There are jobs for people that want to learn a craft. I
Actually, where's
worry
Raf-
about the people that don't
Raf-
want to learn.
Rafiq, you're in the AI to manufacturing bridge. It's a gating factor. It's a bottleneck. People want to play those roles.
Many people are saying the jobs that will come back will be taken by humanoids.
Robotics and the rest. Well, what I was going to ask was basically for the audience as to what they think is most interesting, either themes or things that we haven't thought of yet, that because you have some insights. Yeah, Joy. Do you mind coming up just because if you don't mind?
So I'm from Alliance of Angels, and also I'm on AI and robotic consulting. So right now we see a lot of job changes, especially like new jobs are created. So I'm kind of working with other people, try to let the general public know there's like new economy we can create. For example, Meta just said they have 200 openings for AI and engineers. But a lot of people don't know how to transform their skill sets and get these jobs. So
I think this is all kind of in the same subject we were just talking about, which is like all of us as human beings, we can kind of think about what is our highest and best use. Like just being able to land some role in between the cracks in life that you're able to kind of, make money with, and maybe you're technically contributing to some kind of a GDP number, but it's not really what like maybe you could be some kind of a great painter, or you could be a great, barber or something, but you're in something that's not really like making your heart sing. And I think that's what I hope happens to AI is we unlock additional productivity where, some of these jobs that maybe, are more appropriate for robots and stuff to do. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone doesn't have a job anymore. That means people can do stuff that they find purpose and fulfillment in that, maybe they couldn't before. And that can be unlocked for everybody, and that we as a society can help with that reskilling and upskilling and creating those positions.
Fair. Yeah, come.
I really feel the same as Ben here in that perspective. When you look at healthcare, the problems that we've had is there's not a lot of AI there yet. It's getting there more from scheduling and looking at OR schedules and things like that. The problem with healthcare is that we're pulled away from what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be taking care of human lives, optimizing care, putting you all on the best medications possible, making sure you're in a safe environment. Well, the safety should never be a problem. What we feel like AI is going to do for us is free up time so we can use this and we can start being more productive and we can start making better decisions. When we train our residents and students, we go by a RHIME model, which stands for reporter, interpreter, manager, and expert. A lot of us are just functioning on reporter and interpreter, which just means your serum creatinine, your blood pressure is this. I don't want to harm you, so let's do this. AI and things like that are going to make us far more productive, I believe, and it's actually going to allow us to do what we're supposed to do, and that's take care of human lives. So my question actually is for you from the agricultural standpoint. It sounds like what you've said is similar, like it's going to give farmers and others around the world to be able to produce better crop, focus better on the crop, and have a better product. But not only that, mass production and just the quality of what they're putting out. It seems like it could actually improve.
Is there a specific question or something that I can address there?
I'm just curious if that's what you're thinking from your perspective with AI.
Correct. I actually think that by providing people, the 9.7 billion people that are going to be on the planet, a way of understanding how to leverage their skill set to grow better crops is going to be the key to being able to feed the world moving forward. But what I'll also add to that is the number one thing I've found in talking to employees at both my company and other companies is employees who are not willing to embrace AI or who are pushing back against using AI tools in the workplace. And that's been a huge issue that is real. And so the question is, how are we as individuals and how are employees going to be able to embrace AI going forward? And I'd welcome my co-panelists to answer that too, if anyone wants to chime in.
Well, so I talked about what I feared earlier, but just in general, as like an engineer, I'm currently doing investing, but I also like to think of myself as an entrepreneur. It's like AI is an amazing thing. It allows me to do so much more. It was like similar to when Square started. We had so many services that we could just build on top of, and we just didn't have to hire an infrastructure engineer. We didn't have to hire, customer service. There's so many things that we could do, and we could accelerate the business to doing the thing that we love. I think with AI today, this is a different story, but I'm considering moving out of Washington. So I am looking at tax regimes of states throughout the US. And it was a lot easier to have an AI look up all this information for me and give me like a JSON blob of tax regimes throughout the United States. And then I could focus on analyzing that information and figuring out where I want to move from a tax perspective. So it's fantastic. I think part of what we're talking about also is at a high level, what does this do for the general population, right? For every sort of innovation cycle, people are going to be left behind. And I think what's really interesting about this one is, could this one be different in the sense that the people being left behind is at a greater rate than any prior like creative destruction? And do we need to actively do something like more than what we've done historically about it? So I think, yeah, like how do you retrain people faster or have people have the motive? That's part of why I kind of push back a little bit on UBI. I don't know if anybody else want to.
Volunteer, though, I think is well. By the way, it is other industries, so I would love to hear Sam's point of view on embedded finance in a minute. But what about UBI? So UBI is a wretched idea. I mean, you couldn't have worse. Let's just demotivate people to ever achieve anything and just turn them into welfare babies. It's just, I can't think of anything worse. But here's the biggest challenge that I am scared by. When I said single-purpose tools, Mark, you took offense because you thought I was talking about your dad when I'm not. Your dad is a man of craft. He is a man who knows how to cut hair,
I'm
right?
actually worried about the guy that you called a blob. That's a different thing.
No, the guy in the elevator is a blight on humanity. Okay,
I don't think that guy maybe doesn't have a choice. So I think you
don't buy it for a moment.
But
There
go
are
ahead.
so many roles. Like my son, I have 3 kids. My oldest, I was pretty hard on them all, but they've all said thank you. And at one point I'm like, you know what? There's always room for you to swing a sledgehammer. You can probably make $35 an hour swinging a sledgehammer. There is nobody on the planet, unless they're so weak their bones are going to break, that they can't go out there and do construction work. So there's always something. But my fear is that certain cultures have a history and heritage of a deep respect for and insistence on education. Others have less of that. And I've learned this the hard way through some investments I made. And so if you have learned to learn and are motivated, exactly what you said actually. Here's the problem. When you have a room of intelligent thinking people that talk about self-actualization, maybe Maslow's hierarchy, like getting somewhere, being your best self, that's great.
Ikigai.
but not everybody cares. And so if you're not motivated to go forward and learn a new craft, then, by the way, you can take welding. I think it takes about 3 to 6 months to get a certification, and you can make close to 100 grand. So it's not like this isn't possible. The worry I have is the motivation. Do you have people that are not willing and don't want it, and so they cry out for the government to decide to give them some free money, and it's all government cheese?
So
All right, we have a couple questions.
let me make just a really fast comment, because I also, when I first heard about UBI many years ago, Andrew Yang, of course, was like one of the proponents of this. I thought, oh, this is a terrible idea. This is going to demotivate people. But I do think there's a real fear.
Mark's a partial believer in it.
Well, right. You're creating a scenario where you are going to rapidly create additional wealth inequality, and you're going to displace people so fast that there's going to be definite animosity, and there's going to be depression and things like that come with it. So, whether the merits of it giving people actual cash or not is a different subject. We're going to, in theory, create so much more productivity. We should utilize some of that productivity to help with that transition, and maybe it can be in a way of educating people or empowering people or giving them resources to build new technologies or businesses or to skill themselves using that same kind of money that's being unlocked from all this new productivity. Because a lot of people are, it's going to create a negative impact otherwise. And I think what you said about not everyone cares, I think deep down, everyone can care. Everyone wants to feel appreciated. It's some part of them. It's part of human nature.
Why don't you go talk to the guy that runs the elevator?
I'll find him.
Yeah, I want to talk about the button guy for a second.
He's got a solution somewhere.
No, so when I was working with the prison reentry system and with Cory Booker and City of Newark, my homeless guys, we were trying to find them ways to get jobs. These people, we needed to get them to do something because they didn't know what the hell to do to get back into society. So I get it and I understand you're willing to have your child do a sledgehammer, but this gentleman that I was talking about was sold at birth for an 8-ball of crack. So he didn't have the father, right? So what I'm saying is there is a tremendous amount of people that this AI, they can't jump in from the prison yard to working AI or, hey, I'm going to take 3 to 6 months to do this and then I can make $100,000. We need them pushing the button and then taking the next step and then taking the next step. So there needs to be a place to start.
There's no next step. There's no next step for that. I funded a robotic dishwasher because the turnover is the worst of any job. By the way, probably the number one job for people that leave prison, at least from every movie I've ever seen, is go be a dishwasher. There's all kinds of jobs, and you can achieve, but there is the premise that step one is push a button in an elevator, and step two is what's the skill you've gained? That's where I'm fearful. I want to see.
I think we're at cross purposes.
Okay,
We're
but
we're not
can I
talking about a
flip to,
skill. Sometimes there's just a moment in life where that's what you've been given, and you move on. I want to move this.
Right, but
move
that
this
was
to-
union
I wanna
driven.
I want to move this to investment, back to investment.
Can we talk about other industries? Because I would love to.
Well, we're gonna let
Okay.
some other people talk. Yes, go ahead, Robin.
I was just going to say something about Square, and I have a question about it. It seems like, first of all, thank you, because I go and I buy groceries at the Green Market, Union Square, all the time, and everybody uses Square. Everybody, and this gal told me, she goes, oh, since I got this, I'm making a lot more money, because now people don't have to bring me cash, and they're not confined to the $5 they brought. They can spend 10. So that was really cool, and that's a huge benefit from a technology. But what else could we do with that kind of idea that might help us with education for people in this space going forward? Because, you don't know that guy isn't a world famous poet. He just happened to push the button in your elevator, but they have potential. They want potential. They want to do something. But it's hard for adults to access education without spending a lot of money. So I was just thinking, maybe we could leverage your previously good idea for a new idea.
I just want to make sure I understood your question. It's about how we can, I guess, educate people better. It's the-
How can we build technologies that would allow them to be educated in the spaces, of their lives?
You mean to meet them where they are?
Yeah, meet them where they are and offer them something that they can learn, that they can leverage themselves away from whatever.
Making that next step.
That's a tough question. I don't know if I can answer that. Honestly, I haven't thought about it deeply enough. I think my comment on this is that one of the things that you notice when you travel around the world is that for places where the education is not free, people seem to value it a lot more. And I don't understand kind of, there's a lot in this question, part of which is it's expensive to access education. The whole like code boot camp thing was like a giant grift that kind of put a stain on the entire education industry. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think one of the things that Square kind of attempted to do was the idea of it making commerce easy. And, to kind of answer the part of your question about how somebody who pushes a button for a living can do something more productive. I think a lot of people are creative and, they'll have things that they can sell. And one of our goals was to like remove accounting from the equation, HR compliance from the equation. Square had this program called Business in a Box, where we tried to take care of all of the background stuff so that if you wanted to sell flowers for a living, you could sell flowers for a living. If you wanted to, so there was a lot of desire at Square to just allow people to do the things that they actually loved. I don't know if that answers your question around education. I think that's just a really tough question. Like sometimes I, kind of like what I said. Sometimes I wonder that, like I think there's very few places. So, I'm an engineer by training. I was a computer nerd. I got into engineering because I watched Apollo 13. I read sci-fi and like fantasy novels. I'm like the prototypical guy that you would kick his butt, and kick his butt and put him in a locker, right? And that doesn't seem to happen in other parts of the world with respect to people who are in school. And maybe that's just from the limited view of the places that I visited. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's something that's intrinsically wrong with public discourse and motivation around education. I mean, I remember lots of movies where people were proud to have not gone to school or like skipped school. So yeah, it's a very big question. I'm not really sure how to answer it. Maybe somebody else can.
I think it probably goes to mentorships.
One more quick thing to add there. I think there's 3 or 4 things that are critical. First is feed the planet. Second is leave the planet. The third is preserve humanity. And the fourth is to preserve knowledge. And I think if we can take AI and apply them to those 4 things, we can really make a difference to the world 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Okay, Damon, you have to have your own drop the mic comment right now as we finish up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we were saying examples of kind of what's going on, and we've had the privilege of working with 3 Mile Canyon Farms. You should look it up, Boardman, Oregon, 100,000 acre vertically integrated farm. We were probably taking the cow manure, turning it into transportation fuel, selling it into waste management, CNG fleet. But what more broadly they were doing there is they had the people milking the cows around the carousel, manual job. I went back there 30 days later. They inserted all robotic milkers. And you had those same workers operating those machines, moving them over to the calvery where they're basically new calves were kicking out, utilizing kind of next generation genetics. And so the output and the jobs that were there were still there. They just kept on doing more and more. And it's an investment in the robotics and other infrastructure to drive the output.
Touche, elegant way of segue.
So I know we're trying to like leave this subject, and so I'm just gonna say one last thing about it. Because it's actually super interesting, and I think it does really feed into all the industries we're talking about, which is we're reaching a point of late stage capitalism or industrialism or whatever, where purpose is becoming super important for people, especially young people. What is my purpose? United Nations had a study where they said, a lack of purpose and a feeling of purposelessness is coming into people's mentalities at greater levels now than ever in history. And so having purpose and fulfillment in life, doing something beautiful that you care about, I think is super important that we as a society really embrace that and focus on that more. I want to do that with my company, with the Domes. We want to help inspire people to be the heroes of their own journeys, so to speak. But I think all industries, we need to think about that. And, to what you're saying before on the whole, elevator thing, during the election, there was a whole debate around the ports, automation of the ports, right? And how people are going to lose jobs, and if we bring all this automation to these ports, it was a big, dramatic political issue. But if people didn't feel like they would lose jobs and income, and maybe they had some other way of still making good money and using their skills in a new way and being provided with being re-skilled, maybe they would not resist automation as much in certain industries. And I think that's going to come up over and over and over again in all of our industries as AI comes in. And so our way that we treat workers and that we treat people, it's all being uniquely wonderful in their own ways, and having purpose in life is going to be super critical. So that's all I want to say at the end of that.
Okay.
So I now obviously deeply regret talking about the button pushing guy. But in case you didn't get it, my disgust is for the unions that forced that job to exist for that person and gave him a week out to not have to do anything else with his life. And I think unions are basically a dated concept that protect the lowest possible thing you could do and limit you, and that is tragic because technology creates new opportunities. So you just talked about how all of a sudden the cows being milked, the robots are being run by the same people that used to milk the cows. You think that person hasn't advanced? One of the oldest robots around is the credit card reader at a gas station. Now, there are amazingly still 2 states that insist a human being pump your gas. The least efficient mechanism to get your gas pumped is to have somebody else do it. It's insane. Well, they were, they're going to lose their jobs. Everybody's going, it's going to be so horrible. You know what happened? Who owns gas stations? Not Shell. They're owned by almost exclusively immigrant families that are entrepreneurs. So once they got more money, because they didn't have to pay somebody to be out there doing with the pumps, what do you think they did? Let's put that into T-bills and just sit on it, put it on a match. No. They invested in something that's now called the convenience store, right? So all of a sudden, instead of just a gas station with like 2 sticks of gum and a candy bar behind the counter, you have an entire retail store, which has to be staffed, has to be cleaned, has to be stocked. So many more jobs. Same thing with ATMs, more banks,
We have
not
to
less.
transition.
I do want to, just for the woman that asked about education, I do want to tell you there are multiple businesses, Edmodo and Coursera, that have brought stunning amounts of college-level education, including Ivy League education, online for free. I believe at the end of the day, this is a bringing a horse to water problem. There is plenty of water, but somebody's got to go drink it.
So, thank you, panelists. Appreciate your time for the lively discussion. Last panel.
Come join our 361 firm community of investors and thought leaders. We have a lot of events created by the community as we collaborate on investments and philanthropic interests. Join us.